I was 31, sitting in my penthouse office, with the city spread out below me like a circuit board. On my screen was the final prospectus for a $5.5 million acquisition. Then the email landed. It was from the family group, but sent by my brother, Ethan. He's 29. The subject line was Cold Family Resolution, the Sovereign. I read it once. Elara. After a family discussion, we've decided to exercise the Founder's Clause. You have 60 days to vacate the penthouse so we can proceed with the sale. This is necessary to fund Chloe's wedding and Ryan's startup. Mom has already engaged a realtor. Have you ever been the one person in your family who is completely invisible until they need something? Let me know your story down in the comments. I didn't feel anger. Not really. It was just cold. A familiar? Heavy resignation. I didn't reply to Ethan's email. I didn't text my mother. Instead, I swiveled in my chair and opened my secure server. The folder was named Sovereign Holdings, LLC. I clicked through the files, the articles of incorporation, the bank-owned purchase agreement from 2 years prior, and finally, the deed, owner Elara Vance. My anger wasn't loud. It was clinical. It was precise. I made 2 calls. The first was to building security. Mark, this is Elara Vance. His voice was warm. Ms. Vance, what can I do for you? I need you to deactivate all master key fobs and access codes for units 1000A and 1000B, effective immediately. There was a pause. All of them? Ma'am. That includes the fobs registered to Brenda and Kevin Vance. All of them? I said. My voice perfectly level. My mother, father, brother, and sister. They are to be reclassed as guest and will require my personal authorization for entry. No exceptions. Understood? Ms. Vance. Deactivating now. The second call was to my lawyer. Julia, it's Elara. Elara. Her voice sharpened. Don't tell me. It's happening. They're citing the Founder's Clause. I need you to prepare the full ownership file. Please put special emphasis on the 2019 foreclosure deed, the original, court-stamped, 1. It's already in a binder. She said, what else? One more thing. Can you run a full background check on Chloe's fiancé? Ryan A., deep one. Something just feels wrong. My pleasure, Julia said. I'll start tonight. I hung up. Now, let me explain. This wasn't some simple family apartment they were fighting over. The Sovereign is a historic Art Deco landmark, 10 units of architectural history, crowned by my 2-story penthouse. My family talks about it like it's a birthright, a piece of old money they're entitled to, the last shining symbol of their legacy. The truth, 2 years ago, the Sovereign was a bank-owned wreck. It was rotting from the inside out, ruined by decades of family mismanagement, long before my time. They hadn't just mismanaged it, they had lost it. It was gone. While they were busy clinging to this Founder's Clause myth, this ghost of old money that had vanished decades ago, I was busy working. While they were letting the building crumble into foreclosure, I was quietly building a $25 million portfolio in legacy properties. I specialize in buying historic, distressed assets and bringing them back to life. The Sovereign was my passion project. I bought it at a bank auction 2 years ago, through an anonymous LLC. Just a string of letters. They never bothered to look up. I got it for pennies on the dollar. And then I poured $8.5 million into restoring it. I saved it. My family, they never asked. They knew I was in tech or did something with computers. They knew I made good money. But they saw it as a kind of abstract, undeserved luck. When I moved into the penthouse after the restoration, they just accepted it. They told their friends I was living there rent-free as part of some vague family arrangement, that I was house-sitting the family jewel. It was easier for them to believe that than to ask a single question about my career. But I finally understood why. Their email made it clear. In a narcissistic family system, everyone has a job. I understood mine now. I was never a person. I was a role. I was the scapegoat. I was the competent one. The quiet one. The one who was always stable. That meant I was responsible for everything, but credited with nothing. I was the one who was supposed to absorb the family's problems and never have any of my own. My sister, Chloe, she had a different job. She was the golden child. She was the pretty one, the charming one, the one with so much potential. This meant she was never, ever expected to be competent. She was a black hole for family resources. In this system, my success was an inconvenience. It was confusing. But Chloe's failures, her failures were a 5-alarm crisis that everyone had to mobilize to solve. And that's what this email was. Chloe, the golden child, had a crisis. Her wedding, her fiancé's failing startup, and I, the scapegoat, was not just a person. I was a resource. And it was time to liquidate that resource. The backlash was faster than I expected. Of course it was. They had a timeline. My phone, which had been silent on the family front for weeks, exploded. First, a voicemail from Ethan. He wasn't even trying to sound professional anymore. His voice was high and tight. Ilara, what the hell did you do, Mom? And the realtor are in the lobby. And security won't let them up. They won't even call your unit. Call me back now. A few seconds later, a text from my mother. Brenda, I have never been so embarrassed in my entire life. The realtor thinks we are a joke. You are creating a scene over nothing. This is for your sister. You are being unbelievably selfish. And finally, the guilt bomb from the golden child herself. Chloe, how could you? You know how much stress I'm under. You're ruining my wedding. Ryan is so stressed out, he can't even focus on his funding round. You're sabotaging us. I read the texts. One by one. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I just felt quiet. The fog I had lived in for 31 years was finally clearing. They weren't just entitled, they were delusional. I didn't call Ethan. I didn't reply to my mother. I didn't reassure Chloe. I opened the group chat, my fingers moving calmly over the keyboard, and sent a single, simple message. I am not creating a scene. The building's access protocols have been updated by ownership. I am in meetings all week. But I am free to discuss this at the family meeting you've scheduled for Sunday. I sent it. Then I muted the chat. They had set the meeting for Sunday, thinking it would be their intervention, the day they would officially pressure me into signing away my home. They had no idea I was using that time to prepare. On Friday, 2 days before their intervention, I had Julia make the first professional move. It was time to stop being the scapegoat and start being the owner ADA. Julia drafted the letter on Friday afternoon. It was a masterpiece of cold, professional precision. She sent me the draft, and I read it over. It was one page, not a single emotional word. No, I feel. Or you did. It was just a wall of facts. The letterhead was from her firm, a large, intimidating name in corporate law. It was addressed to my father, Kevin, and my brother, Ethan. Re-property at the Sovereign. Unit 1000. Notice to cease and desist. Please be advised that our client, Sovereign Holdings LLC, is the sole and legal owner of the property at address, having acquired it via public auction in 2019. The Founders Clause you have repeatedly cited is legally null and void, as the property's chain of title was definitively broken by the bank foreclosure and subsequent sale to our client. This letter serves as a formal notice to cease and desist any and all attempts to list this property for sale, to access private units without authorization, or to harass the legal owner. Any further attempts to do so will be met with immediate legal action, including formal charges of trespassing and damages. I replied to Julia with 2 words: send it. She didn't email it. She had it delivered by a bonded legal messenger. 2 sealed, terrifyingly official envelopes. 1 to my parents' house. 1 to Ethan's office downtown. And then silence. The nuclear storm of voicemails. To the angry. How could you texts? The manipulative, you're ruining this. Family messages. Everything just stopped. The silence was deafening. It was the sound of their shared delusion, their fantasy of old money power, hitting a brick wall of indisputable, professional fact. They didn't know how to respond to a lawyer. They only knew how to bully a daughter and a sister. That silence lasted all of Friday night. I actually slept. Then, Saturday morning, my personal phone rang. Not the family chat. A direct call. It was Julia. I picked up, expecting to hear that my father had called her. A sputtering. Julia, did they reach out? No. Julia said, and her voice was different. It wasn't the satisfied, professional tone from yesterday. It was sharp, urgent. Elara, she said. Forget the letter. We have a much bigger problem. My background check on Ryan. It's not good. He's not just a failed startup bro. I found something. I sat up. What? What did you find? He's been pulling public records on Sovereign Holdings LLC for 8 months. Elara? He knows. He's known this whole time. My blood went cold. He's known what? Known everything. Elara. Julia said, I'm sending you the file. He's been pulling public records on Sovereign Holdings LLC, not just for a week or 2. He's been doing it for 8 months. 8 months. I did the math. That was before he even proposed to Chloe. Before the wedding planning. Before the talk of his funding round started getting desperate. My God. I whispered. He's known I was the sole member this entire time. He didn't just know. Julia said, and I could hear the anger in her voice now. He was investigating. Your instinct about Ryan was correct. He's not just a failed startup bro. Elara, he's a predator. The pieces started to click, one after another, forming a horrifying, perfect picture. The casual questions about the building's history, the innocent comments about how valuable the penthouse must be, the way he so perfectly stoked my mother's ego and my sister's entitlement. He wasn't a passenger. I said, thinking out loud, he was the orchestrator. 100%. Julia confirmed. He was manipulating your entire family, pushing them to invoke a family myth. This founder's clause that he knew was legally void. He researched it. He knew it was worthless. I couldn't breathe. Then what was the point? Why start a fight he knew he would lose? Because he wasn't after the penthouse. Julia said, her voice dropping. He was after you. He was trying to publicly shame you. He wanted to create a massive, public, ugly family feud. Knowing you're a private person, knowing you've built your whole career on being discreet, the final, sickening piece slotted into place. He was trying to extort me. I said, it wasn't a question. Yes, he was using your family to back you into a corner, assuming you would pay a massive, multi-million-dollar settlement to buy his silence, to make this all go away before it tainted your reputation. He's not just greedy. Helada. He's smart. And he's dangerous. I looked at the phone. The game had just changed. This wasn't a family squabble over an apartment anymore. This was a conspiracy. This was a war. And they had just given me all the ammunition. Okay, I said, and my voice was perfectly calm. Thank you. Julia, this is everything I need. I'll see them on Sunday. Sunday. The intervention. I didn't meet them in the lobby. I made them call up from the front desk. And I made Mark, the head of security, escort them up to the penthouse. All 5 of them. My mother, Brenda, my father, Kevin, my brother, Ethan, my sister, Chloe, and the architect of this whole thing, Ryan. I opened the door and let them into the grand salon. The room with the 20-foot-tall windows overlooking the city. They weren't there to admire the view. They were vibrating with a toxic, self-righteous anger. My father was pale. My mother's face was a mask of pinched fury. Ethan, the enforcer, was clutching Julia's cease and desist letter in his hand. It was crumpled. This is a joke. Helada. He started, his voice shaking. Some cute legal trick. You can't just send your own family a letter like this. My mother, Brenda, stepped forward. We are here, she announced, as if she were a queen granting an audience to give you one last chance to be a part of this family. You will stop this nonsense. You will sign the papers to vacate, and you will stop this. I looked past them. In the back, near the window, Ryan was standing with his arms crossed. He was smirking. That was his mistake. He was watching this all play out, like a show he had produced, waiting for his payout. He thought he had me. I let the silence stretch. I let their accusations and their threats just hang in the air, echoing off the marble. Then, I walked to my desk. I picked up a thick, hardbound document. It was heavy. I slid it across the long mahogany table. It stopped right in front of my father. That letter, I said, my voice keyed, was a copy, a courtesy. This is the original 2019 foreclosure deed, court-stamped and registered. The founder's clause died with the bank auction. Dad. I let him open it. I watched his eyes scan the legal language, his face going from red to a ghostly, sick white as he got to the buyer's name. I bought the building. I said, it's mine. Ethan laughed. A short, sharp ugly sound. You don't be ridiculous. Elara, you don't have that kind of money. Don't I said. I picked up another file. This is my portfolio summary. 10 properties. A combined asset value of just over $25 million. My private equity stake is around $12 million. The Sovereign was my third acquisition, and the $8.5 million I spent restoring it was my 10th largest investment that year. The silence was no longer a weapon. It was a vacuum. My mother's mouth opened and closed. Chloe just stared, her eyes wide and blank. Ethan looked at my father, who was still just staring at the deed. Ryan was no longer smirking. And then, right on cue, the sputtering began. But, my mother started, We're family. You can't. Chloe needs this. My father finally looked up. Elara, you owe your sister. I was watching it happen in real time. The power fantasy of an empty wallet. Their entire lives. Their authority over me. I was built on a shared illusion that they were strong and I was weak. That they were the old money and I was the lucky one. Now that the illusion was shattered, they were still shouting demands. Still trying to cash checks from an account that had just been proven to be empty. Their authority was gone. There was nothing left but noise. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I picked up my phone. Mark, I said to building security, my guests are leaving. Please escort them back to the lobby. You can't do this, my mother shrieked. As Mark and another guard stepped into the room, I already have. I said. I looked at Ryan. His face was pure, undisguised hatred. I knew he'd lost. He knew I knew. I had security escort them out. The next day, the family group chat was a nuclear storm of apologies, threats, and confusion. I muted it. I had Julia do one last thing. She took the entire 8-month file on Ryan's background, searched the public records requests. The evidence of his manipulation, his entire sociopathic plan to extort me, and she messengered it. Without comment. Directly to Chloe. The wedding was called off by Tuesday. The family didn't just break, it imploded. The final scene, it's 2 weeks later. I'm in my office. The same office where this all started. My phone is silent. All those numbers, Brenda. Kevin. Ethan. Chloe are now blocked. I'm signing the final closing papers for the new $5.5 million acquisition. My 10th property. I looked out the window. At my city. From my penthouse. And I finally understood we're all conditioned to believe that blood is an unbreakable bond. But sometimes, it's just a cage. I realized that true self-respect, true freedom, is a choice. And sometimes, the most courageous act of family is to protect the new life you've built. From the one you were born into. I chose myself